Welcome to another episode of Progress Always, where we build the fittest leaders. And I have the honor and the pleasure to sit down with my man, Jonathan DeFries. Dude, I love everything about your story in that you're so open, honest, and vulnerable with its telling. I would be doing you a disservice if I gave you any kind of bullet point introduction. So I'm just going to describe our relationship as I've come to know you. Is that fair?
Let's do it, man.
Okay. So what is truly inspiring to me about your story is your journey through addiction, finding fitness through the rehabilitation process, ultimately becoming a gym owner, and now sold your piece of that business and now crushing it in sales. So walk us through, man. There's so many deep dives we could go here, and I've heard you speak from stage a number of times at this point, and it was really funny. The story about you in Buffalo and coming out of rehab and diving into the black church, and I was like, I knew he had some soul in there somewhere. Yeah. Walk us through it, man. When did your addiction start? When did it become a realization that you were an addict? How did you find fitness? Give us the journey, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Best experience. Memorial Temple, Church of God in Christ on Sycamore in Buffalo, man. It's great. So I grew up, man, small town, USA, North Carolina in the country, beside a cow farm across from a cornfield, man. So I grew up in the sticks, and, my parents, they provided for me, but they weren't like around a lot when I was growing up. And so I kind of became what I understood as independent. That's funny. I was still dependent, but I kind of, started telling this story in my mind of I got to take care of myself. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when I started getting into middle school and high school, I got into partying and everything. And then the first time my drug of choice was opiates. Now I'm a believer all of those substances kind of lead back to the same place. That's how it's played out in my life. But opiates were the thing. And I started experimenting with those when I was a sophomore in high school. But when I was 16, man, it was November of 2005. Can't even say 20. It's 2005. And I was actually leaving school, and I was on my way to where I worked, which was Aeropostale at the mall back in the day.
Aeropostale.
That's how you're supposed to say it. But I say it like that.
That's how people don't know. I got you.
But I was on my way there, and so I was leaving school, and as I was leaving, on my way towards going to the mall, there was a school bus stopped, and a couple of cars stopped in front of me. I stopped too late. I rear-ended a truck, and there was a sophomore student from my high school in the bed of the truck. He got ejected. He hit his head on the curb, and he died 2 days later. And that was a catalyzing moment. I started using cocaine basically every day at that point. I had to go through the whole court thing, and through that, that was really where the lifestyle of some sort of thing being a relief for me. And so it was cocaine. And then when I got to lacrosse season, I kind of just over-indexed on that. It was my entire life for a couple months. And then a year later, girlfriend of mine that, we'd been dating for a long time, she cheated on me. And so that cascaded into more. Then so finally, when I got to college, I went to App State University. I started getting into opiates all the time because there's a guy that sold them, right? And then that summer, my dad was terminally diagnosed with cancer at that point. And he didn't die at that time, but they were like, hey, we don't know how treatment's going to go. So they just kind of said, we're going to treat it as if terminal. And I was stealing all his pills, right? Then I finally met this guy that sold Oxycontin, which, back then, that was in the days of Oxycontin being big time. And started doing that. And the guy I used to hang out with, he was straight up criminal, dude. I mean, that's where my criminal lifestyle started. Went back to school another year. Went from a 3.0 GPA to a 0.8 because I never went to class. I was high all the time.
That's almost harder than becoming the valedictorian, bro.
Yeah, it is, bro. It takes work, bro. It is hard to get to a 1. That is a difficult thing to do, bro. It's not easy. But I did it. But yeah, so and that's when that second year, that sophomore year of college, that's when I just was like off the deep end, bro. Cause I had some money, ended up spending all of it. It was money I was given to pay for my entire 4 years of college, burn it all. And then I started being a criminal, stealing scrap metal, guns, like all we've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so now we're in 2009, summer 2009. My dad, one day, I'm down in our shop at our house, and he comes up to me. I pawned some of his tools, and he was like, "Hey man, like, where are my tools at?" And I was like, "Well, someone may have stolen them, or, something like that." Cause we'd had stuff stolen before, but so I was just like laying that on. And he's like, "All right, man, here's the deal." He's like, "You can either leave or you can get help." He said, "Either way, you can't stay here." And I was like, I remember that moment being like, I didn't quite admit I was, I didn't know if I really wanted help, but I was like, oh, I have a choice. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, about a year earlier was the first time I experienced being dope sick, and I didn't know what it was. So this was kind of the fall year before. I'd been like, man, I'm spending a lot of money, kind of don't want to do that anymore. I was being illogical, right? And so then, like on a Monday, I finished all my pills, and then the next morning I woke up, I was like, man, I'm nauseous, like I'm kind of sweaty, like I don't feel good, like what's going on? Went through that for 3 days, escalating, right? Because withdrawals sucked. And then that Friday, I was like, I'm gonna go get some more pills. So I drove home and was talking to the guy that I got my pills from at the time. And I remember I used to grate them up and sniff it. That's what I did. And I did that. And I was like, man, I feel so much better. And I was like, man, the weirdest thing happened to me. I was telling him the story of how I felt. He's like, oh man, you're dope sick. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're dope sick. He's like, you're physically dependent on it. So if you don't have it, you're going to have withdrawals. And that was the moment that I knew I was an addict, right? Okay. I had adopted that. So then fast forward back to when my dad said, hey, you got to leave. That gap, it's about 10 months. I just lived life like, oh, I'm just going to be a drug addict the rest of my life. Like it was normal to me. Like that whole lifestyle, just never going to school, not paying my rent at my apartment. And then my dad co-signed. So the apartment company's calling them and like all that. I just was like, well, it's just my life. All of that chaos came with it, but it was normal to me. But then when my dad confronted me, he's like, all right, man, you got to get help or you got to go. It was the first time in a couple of years where I was really like, oh, I have a choice. I was like, I get to decide something here,
Yeah.
Now, I ended up going to rehab for an entire year, but I was just there for compliance. Like I was there because like external circumstances. But I was like, the one guy went home for a court hearing, brought back weed, and we smoked it. Right? It's like we were serious. We just were like, hey, we're here because we're supposed to be, not because I wanted to. And so, year later, day I got out, went drinking with some buddies, and then within 6 weeks, I was back on pills. And so now we're in 2010. So about 6 months of that. January 2011 is actually January 20th, I believe. I remember I was in my mom's house at it was the same room I grew up in. I was sitting there looking out the window. I had a part-time job at Jersey Mike's. I was back in community college, but the money wasn't adding up. If I didn't, start stealing stuff, I was going to have to like do that if I wanted to keep everything going. And I was just like, God, if I just do whatever it is you want me to do, I know I won't be back here. I literally was like, I don't know what that is. I just don't want to be here anymore, man. Called a friend and he was like, hey man, I told him what happened. He still worked at Teen Challenge, the program I went through. And he was like, I'll find you a spot. Told my family. He called me back and he's like, all right, dude, I got you a spot in Buffalo, New York in January. So fly up to Buffalo.
Is this the only location for this program?
No, they have them all over. So I could have went all types of places, man. So the first time I went to the Outer Banks of North Carolina and then central Pennsylvania. This time I went to Buffalo. And what's funny is the counselor I had my first time.
Get colder and colder.
Yeah. And colder. Oh yeah, bro. And you're coming from Scottsdale and then me from Texas. And yeah, it's rough. But get this, dude. January 28th, I fly to Buffalo, 2011, 14 and a half years ago. I fly to Buffalo. And I look out the window and there's snow on the runway. And I'm like, this ain't right, bro. And so then we get there. It's a men's program. There's like 20 men in the program. We all live in one house. It was actually an old convent, huge building. And so like, lots of rooms to stay in. It's designed for people to stay there. Yeah. I remember one time, just like it snowed like 9 inches during the day. And we were supposed to go to a church service that night. And they were like, at 5 o'clock, they're like, all right, let's go shovel and snow blow. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we're going to go shovel the driveway. Then we're going to go to church. I was like, you're going to drive in this? And I was just like, it just wrecked my head, bro. I was like, what is this? And so, but what's different so that was like, to me, the conversion moment was that decision of, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I was there, went through what they call restoration, which is 3 months. And then they ask that you stay and work. You don't have to, but they're like, hey, like if you went through a year the first time, maybe you should stay. And they give you more responsibility anyways. So I stayed for an extra 6 months as what's called extended training program. That translates as 65 hours of work, 0 pay, just a place to stay type of thing. Right. And then another year as an intern. But that's when I started going to Memorial Temple with Bishop William Dockery. He's like 76, 78 years old, African-American guy, white hair, super, super cool dude. He used to take me play golf, but, man, they adopted me, bro. I was like one of 2 white people in the church, man. It was awesome. And, but then they taught me what adoption is, man. Like in the Bible in Galatians, it talks about adoption and like it's literally like you're supposed to look past everything external, right? To bring someone in. And I was like, these people did it. Like they were always like, do you need to ride to church? Like all that. It was awesome. But then that's when I saw CrossFit for the first time. So I was living up in Buffalo, saw CrossFit on TV. I was like, that looks way cooler than bro splits, which dude, I've been doing bro splits since I got back from Phoenix.
Come on now.
So yeah, my shirts are getting tight.
We always come back to it, baby.
Yeah. So, but I saw it and I was like, man, that looks cool. And then, so I just started deep diving. Then I went, started doing it on my own there, for the last 6 months I was there in 2012.
Did you go to CrossFit Buffalo by chance?
Nah, bro. I only made like $75 every 2 weeks, dude. I was like, I can't afford this, but I did look at it. I looked at it all the time. I was like, I really should go check that out, but I never made it.
That was my first CrossFit experience right after I got home from Afghanistan.
Oh, dude, let's go, bro. Yeah. That is a small world that you would say that.
Watford Trent, right?
Yes.
The namesake, Trent White, that's my homeboy from my academy football days.
Yeah.
And he was living up there and he's like, dude, you got to come do this CrossFit thing.
Oh, man.
And I was like, all right. Well, I just got home from Afghanistan and they were doing a veteran tribute for an Army soldier who was a member and didn't make it home.
Man.
So we did him and I did that thing together. And unfortunately, that was the winter that was February of 2011. No, December of 10. I just got home.
Yeah.
Freezing, dude. Freezing. And 2.5 years, a year and a half later, Trent passed from oral cancer. Man. And that's where Wadford Trent was actually born at CrossFit Buffalo.
Okay.
We adopted it, took it and ran with it.
That's like a full circle story, bro. That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Buffalo, it's not only cold, it's like from mid-October to like mid-April, it's dark all the time. Like it's, the sun doesn't rise till 9 and it sets at 4, but it's always cloudy because it's by a lake. It's a tough place to live during the winter, man. Not just because of the cold, but it's like dark. It's kind of depressing, honestly.
Hard people live in Buffalo, dude.
Yeah. Very genuine people up there, but you got some salt, dude, if you live up there. So then speaking of Bishop Dockery, he was like, hey man, I was looking at schools to go to and he's like, hey man, you ever heard of Oral Roberts University? I said, never. But he wasn't a guy to just suggest stuff. He's like, you should check it out. So I went and visited. So this is November of 2012. I'm just finishing up at Teen Challenge. I go visit it and I enroll and I start in January. So I move out to Tulsa, drive out there through Tennessee. If you've never driven through Tennessee side to side, it's long. so just so you're aware, if you ever try, it's cool, man. You eat some good food. You got Knoxville, Nashville, and Memphis. You drive through all 3 of those. But went out there. First day I'm there, I go and they have a functional fitness space. So I went toward the school and we went through the aerobic center and they had black mat and pull-up bars on the wall and they had barbells and bumper plates and wall balls and rowers. I never had any of that. So when I was at Teen Challenge, I had like a rusty dumbbell and I did pull-ups at the park. Like I didn't have nothing. And so I remember getting there being like, dude, this is the coolest thing in the world. Like, because I was just in the CrossFit.
Right.
I go in there and the guy that owned the affiliate just came up to me and introduced himself to me. His name's Doug Decker. And the next Monday I was working out with him, man. I used to go every day after I got out of class. And that's how I started getting into coaching. And then I ended up rooming with Mike Wilson, who still owns CrossFit OIL. That's how we met. And he graduated 1.5 years before me. And he moved to Fort Worth, Texas, where he married his wife, Christine. And that's where I met my wife at their wedding. His wife, Christine, had me dance with her. And so then I was like, well, I have to move to Texas to get married and start a gym. So when I graduated school, got a 4.0 the third time, by the way. When I finally went through college the real time, I got the 4-0. I was like, okay, bro. Like, I was like, if I'm going to do it, I got to go all in. Right.
Yeah.
And so then in 2016, we started the gym in Texas. I also got married that year. And then we just flat out struggled for like 5 years. We always read all the books and listened to the Barbell Business Podcast with Coach Durs on it. Like, I saw the inside of that gym. And so just kind of struggled, man. And it was years of really understanding like who I was, because it was the first time since post addiction, right?
Yeah.
Where I was in an environment that wasn't what I would call a contrived environment. Like, college is a contrived environment. It's designed to, give you autonomy to a degree. Like, if you want to graduate, you got to get these classes and you got to pick from these and you got to do that, like all that. But this was the first time where it was like, all right, dude, I'm going to do this business thing. I knew nothing about it. Right. Now, the other thing that happened in 2013 was my dad did die of cancer. Right. So also, when I was going through this gym ownership, probably the one person I wish I could have called, he just wasn't alive anymore. Right. Because my dad was very, he was very objective, and through his years of cancer, there's definitely some trauma from when I was a kid between him and I, but as we got older, and especially when he went through the cancer, there's a lot of healing there. But he was that one person I was like, man, that's the one person I wish I could call. And never did have that. But then, so we went through just trying to like find our way. And then finally in 2021, we started with Big Little Gyms, right? And it was the first time someone actually like really like started showing us like how to run a business and to think like a business owner. And like, we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but like, it was about being a business owner first, not doing business owner things first. It was like a change in how we viewed who we were, which then influenced, it wasn't just the decisions we made, it was the energy we brought to the situations. Right. So like, we just started evolving pretty quickly, man. And so we had our gym 5X'd in 21 months. It was nuts. It was really crazy. And then during that time, Will recruited me to come do sales for Big Old Gyms. And so that's what I do full time now. So I decided to sell my ownership out of the gym. It was Mike and I 50-50. And I started to realize really, it was probably the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, as the gym was really growing. I started realizing we had vision, like a difference in vision.
Sure.
And most things like values and all that were for the most part aligned, but it was the vision of not only the gym, but ourselves and what we wanted to be doing. Like, he wanted to live in Texas the rest of his life. I did not. He likes having that in-person place thing to do that's consistent. I was like, I think there's some other things I want to pursue. And I just knew that as long as that was the thing in my life, I would not be able to like have the clarity and space to do some of the other things. Right. So I made that decision. I internally made that decision in the summer of 2023. I told him in October, and then into March, I was done, fully done, out and everything. And so moved to North Carolina. So live in the mountains of North Carolina now. And how hot is it there today?
Dude, we just had 3 days of rain, so it's actually pretty nice.
I
think it's only going to hit 98 today.
Okay, cool. Well, it's only about 80 tops here today. Ooh, so just saying, nice cool breeze. But yeah, so doing sales full time now. Still learning that in its totality, right? So like I know how to do sales appointments and do the setting and all of that, but I'm just learning there's a new, I went from owning a gym, working with people in their fitness. So now I'm working basically with gym owners, understanding their business and who they need to become. Right. It's funny. A lot of what we do is what I would call identity-based sales. Like, most gym owners that I talk to, their problem is not knowing what to do. Right. Their problem is becoming the person that will actually engage in the business in a way that it removes the bottlenecks and it starts to grow. Right. And that's the process that a lot of them need to go in. And that starts, with a sales call, which, obviously they're looking for a result. But when you start peeling back the onion, a lot of times what it is it's some sort of internal thing that's driving a certain ecosystem in the business. And so that's what I do now. So I'm learning that and just other pieces of that. But also kind of getting into the ideation of like some of these frameworks and stuff that we talk about all the time. And Toastmasters, trying to get better at my communication. But I don't know. Honestly, I'm still trying to understand what that is. I don't really know what that is. I just know that as any other time in my life, when I start being the person and
Mm-hmm.
the doing starts flowing out of that, I'm sure
Yeah.
that some of those in detail will, they'll kind
Yeah.
of appear. They'll present themselves. But
Mm-hmm.
it's been fun, man. I will tell you this: it has been a hard year. I did not realize how much of my identity was wrapped in the gym. I
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. And
Mm-hmm.
so that work did not happen until I was in the process of selling it, which was a confusing process because I was still working in it some to tidy some stuff up so that transition could easily occur because I didn't want to just drop everything, right? I felt like
Yep.
I wanted to leave well.
Yeah.
And but like as I was leaving it, I was like, my drive to work out's not the same. My drive
Mm-hmm.
to, how I show up every day. Like I didn't realize
Yeah.
how much of that was carrying
Mm-hmm.
me. And so this past year, man, it's been some deep work of understanding myself,
Yeah.
right? And detaching, value from certain things that are
Mm-hmm.
external.
Yeah.
Rewriting that narrative of not only what is Jonathan capable of, but like what's important to Jonathan.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my capacity came from I'm responsible for this.
Yes.
So now I'm learning, hey, how's my capacity come from who I am and who I'm becoming, right? And
Yeah.
that's a different drive. That's more of
Mm-hmm.
a pulling energy versus a pushing energy, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so that was a very a unexpected journey
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like Bilbo, right? An unexpected journey, and I didn't realize I was going to go through that. But now on the other side of it, man, I can see a lot more clearly how fast we as humans we cling to stuff,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I didn't have that tangible, I show up every day and I see the results of the people and all that. I was like, huh, what does drive purpose in my life? And
Yeah.
what am I anchored to?
Yeah.
And what am I actually focused on? So that was
Sure. Well, let me
yeah.
back up really quick because I'm curious right here, right now, and something that we haven't explored, and what I think is unique compared to many others that I've met who have uh, eclipsed addiction,
Mm-hmm.
at least in the toxic sense of the word. Uh, a common thread amongst those individuals that I know well is, and try this on to see how it fits.
Mm-hmm.
Our habits and patterns aren't removed; they get replaced,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what I've seen is, and I think this is very common, like in the ultra running space. A lot of those folks are in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of entrepreneurs that I've had the honor and the pleasure of training. Not a lot, I shouldn't say, but
Yeah.
a good chunk have worked through addiction at one point or another in their lives, and they just transfer all that. And because, dude, the way you describe the shit that you would put yourself through to get a fix is baffling to me. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, from the outside looking in, it's like, wow, dude. And what I notice is that pattern, that behavior, goes from something that is destructive to something that is productive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to channel that into my fitness. I'm going to channel that into my business, and all of that energy that went to, stealing and pawning and,
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff, shifts to getting up early, making the calls, running the races, lifting the
Mm-hmm.
weights, doing the thing. And you're just moving from the negative end of the extreme spectrum to the positive,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you seem to live, from the outside looking in, an amazingly balanced, better put, harmonious lifestyle where you don't have the opposite extreme
Mm-hmm.
playing out in your life. And if that's just something I'm unaware of,
Mm-hmm.
correct me, but I don't experience that in you the way I've experienced it in others.
Yeah. Um, You know, I think when I look at what's a better approach to recovery is I believe in changing where you're going, not avoiding where you're leaving, right? So I do think there's a lot of problems with the whole avoid relapse concept because that type of vat.
Is that how you would describe shifting gears into like, I'm just going to run hundreds of miles instead?
We'll get into it.
That-
I'll tell you
oh,
how
okay.
that works, right?
Okay.
So I believe in pursuing something. I think pursuing. The problem is whenever what you're doing is just another way to avoid the deep internal like human needs you have that are unmet. So
Mm,
if you're walking around feeling like I'm unsuccessful and that's the reason you were in drugs, you're going to go find something to make yourself feel successful. But the problem is, like I was telling you about that 50K award, how did I feel when I got it?
right. Very
I still
anticlimactic.
have the field goal post moved, right? So I got to go find success somewhere else. Or am I wanted? Am I loved? Do I have purpose? Am I good enough? Right? If you're not, and if you want to read a great book, The Seven Primal Questions by Mike Foster, that's where those questions come from. But the concept is you can go chase something, but
Hmm.
if you're trying to fill a deep core human need, scrambling in a way like that, you are going to end up in a similar place. You're just going to have better lipstick on, right?
Hmm.
So, yes, getting in the gym is a better option than using drugs. But if you look at a full life,
Hmm.
if you don't have relationships, if you can't sleep at night, if you can't hormonally auto regulate because you're always stressed and anxious and doing all these things, you are in a better place because you're not using the physical things that would cause your demise immediately. Like I
Hmm.
told you one time I'd gotten some pills and I'd gotten back to my apartment. It was like, nighttime, 9 o'clock, whatever on a Monday. I woke up at like 5 PM the next Tuesday and it was like, like you're not doing stuff that would cause that,
Right.
but you might be pursuing something in a way where you're trying to fill something that thing's not going to fill. Right.
Hmm.
And so some people get extreme on that. Because if you ask those people, you ask them like, hey, well, what happens if you take a week off? Right. And they're like, well, this is what I do to stay clean. So you're saying, so you're addicted to that now because you can't take a week off? It's that wrapped up. Like your
Hmm.
sobriety is that fragile that if you were to stop doing this one thing, you couldn't live your life. Well, that's how I felt on opiates was if I didn't have this, like I wouldn't be normal. That's what I thought when I would
Hmm.
relapse, when I would have withdrawal, right? It sucks. It's terrible. You don't feel normal, right? And so I think some people find a compulsivity there,
Okay.
but but what they're really looking for is like, okay, now I'm successful. I've redeemed my life. They're trying to earn back whatever they caused in the past.
Hmm.
It's just as destructive to a degree.
Sure.
So, but there's nothing wrong with it either. You can do it healthily. There's nothing wrong with any of those things you said, but like
Yeah.
normally when people are tipping into, they're going super deep, but they still don't have the actualized life. Like if they still can't be vulnerable with their spouse, but they're
Hmm.
cool, like they're not using drugs and they're doing these ultras or crushing in business, but they don't have like they don't have communication, like deep communication with their spouse. I
Yeah.
would argue that they're just addicted to something else.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
but I mean, if you look into all the stuff, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, all of those, the types that are typically more inclined to addiction are more inclined to compulsive behavior.
Sure.
So they'll see that, but I think there are positive outputs of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being able to do something and not being afraid of rejection. I mean, how many times did I like lie about getting money and I
Yeah.
didn't care about how it damaged my reputation? You don't care about rejection if you're going to do that. You like tell people this is what it's for, and they're going to find out that you did not spend the money on that, right? Like how many times did I do stuff and it
Hmm.
wasn't, and I didn't care about rejection? I mean, it's in sales, dude. Like if you come in feeling like you're going to get rejected,
Yep.
it will present in whatever
Yeah.
environment that you get in.
Hmm.
But if you don't need it, right, you present
Yeah.
differently, right? It's a lot more
Hmm.
inviting. It's a lot more warm. So yeah, it's funny. I look back and I'm like, man, it sucked going through drug addiction. But I also look back and it's almost like I was prepared for these days.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
I mean, you've heard it, but I think you're to a degree you manifest it in, or I'm sorry, you embody it in that. Uh, you know, if somebody who is successful in drugs took that same skill set,
Mm-hmm.
we'll use that word, and put it into business, they would crush. But their perception of what success looks like,
Mm-hmm.
what happiness and fulfillment looks like, is, I'm only going to use the word skewed because it has a negative impact,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
The one over the other, right? Their perception of those things is so skewed. It's like, this is way easier. Why would I go do all that?
Mm-hmm.
And I only know that because I have addicts in my family, and I've actually had that conversation,
Yeah.
and that's the response I got. It's like, dude, this is way fucking easier. Why would I
Mm-hmm.
do it that way? I got the
Yeah.
tax man after me. Da, 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 da. It's not a rational way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to what you were saying about being compulsive, it's not rational at all.
Mm-hmm.
You're almost at the whim. Maybe you literally are at the whim of your physical and emotional body, to the
Mm-hmm.
extent that you never actually achieve mental clarity or an understanding of who it is you're trying to actually become by
Mm-hmm.
virtue of these behaviors.
Absolutely. Well, if you take, if you kind of, we'll take something more generic, right? But like kind of like, the hustle mentality, right? Of like,
Mhm.
you can't miss a day. That's a very adrenal like state that you're always in and you can't rest, right? And
Mhm.
we know from science, like it's very hard to get into flow state. It's very hard to really stay focused if you're always adrenal and you don't have times to come down out of that
Yep.
and be more parasympathetic, like more rest, digest. And,
Mhm.
you know, I talk to people. Here's a really good example. When I would work at Teen Challenge, we'd have someone come in and they'd just come off the streets or whatever. And they'd start, having a few weeks being sober, start to think a little more clearly. And then they'd be like, man, I got to go, like, basically the thought in their head is like, I got to go win my wife back. We work with men. So we're talking
Yeah.
about men here. I got to go win my wife back. Right.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, I got to go act, do stuff and all this. We're like, hey, dude, like, let's pump the brakes, right? First off,
Mhm.
you're sober and you're in a place where she knows that you're at. You're doing a lot just by doing that. Just so you
Yeah.
know, you've been struggling with
Mhm.
this for 10 years. Like, you're probably doing some benefit.
Yeah.
But then we would say something like, okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely great. We definitely want to try to restore that relationship if we can. Okay.
Mhm.
Two things. Number one, what happens if she doesn't want you back? And then the second question is, okay, let's say she does want you back. Which version of you do you want to be in order for her to want you back? The one
Mhm.
where you have to go manipulate and work and wear a mask and be someone that you're not? Or do you want to actually do the real work to actually
Mhm.
change and become
Yeah.
have different character, different proclivities, right? Not driven by the physical and the emotional all the time. Have
Right.
some of that. Because if you say, well, I just want to win back this relationship, if you just do everything that you think in order to get that person, that's manipulation. That's exactly what that is. You are manipulating who you are to manipulate someone else to get an outcome that you desire. Okay.
Mhm.
What you really want to do is you want to do the internal work to become the type of person that person would desire to have in their life. Right.
Yeah.
That's a totally different process.
Mhm.
It's usually
Asking
slower.
Yeah, asking yourself, who do I need to become?
Yes. It's identity based, right? So
Not
it's like,
not what do I need to do?
bro, let's go. What do I need to do to have my wife so I can be successful as a husband?
Mhm.
How can I be an attractive husband? What does that type of husband do? And then the have usually takes care of itself. Because a lot
Right.
of those people, they may have ruined that marriage. And that wife has the option, legitimate option to say, I don't want any more of this. That's okay.
Mm.
But a lot of those men, even if a divorce occurred, years later, they're happily married because they chose to become the type of person that
Yes.
can be in a healthy marriage, right? And
Mhm.
so that's huge, man. That's why I'm so big on like belief before behavior. I'm cool with behavior, right? But I always like understanding what beliefs are driving said behavior, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, you know, many times these guys or someone get in the program, they've been like 3 months. It's usually a year program. They're like, okay, I got everything I need. And we're like, yeah, what is that? They're like, well, I feel like I got some clean time. I'm thinking clearly. Okay, cool. How many times have you been through programs? Oh, it's like 6 or 7. I'm like, okay, why do you think you left those programs
Mm-hmm.
and got to where you are again?
Right.
And they're like, well, I just didn't know how to cope. And that's the looking back, how do I avoid relapse, right?
Yeah.
That's a clear indicator that they're not looking past, I just need to learn how to behave, do better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when they do that, like you almost know, we call it cliff jumping. You know exactly what that person's about to do, right? They're just going back. And even if it doesn't happen today, they're probably going to go back and experience the same exact outcomes they were already having. Right?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, that's that being thing, man, is huge. And, you know, there's just so many levels of my life where the being preceded the doing.
Yeah.
Toastmasters, bro. It's like we said, man, like Will asked me to speak at each Big Little Jim's thing. And I was like, man, I'm not doing this anything in between. And then you're like Toastmasters. And I was like, and I went last week and I was like, now I understand.
What'd you find out? What'd you find out about yourself in Toastmasters?
You know, they called me up for table talk, right?
Of course they did.
Yeah. I was like, dang, bro. They're like,
that's
do
a
the
good
first
group,
day.
man. Yeah.
So 2 things that I love. Number 1, everything is done there with intention. So like when I walked in, I had no clue what I was getting into, but like the president, the Toastmaster running the thing, all the order, the way they did everything, the timing, bro, the clicker.
Yep. Yeah.
I was like, oh shoot, this is legit. I was like, they have thought about all of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, new game. So that was the first thing I thought. I was like, new game. I said, this is how you get better. I was like, this environment is entirely crafted to get better at communication. There's no piece that's not in here for that.
Yep.
The second thing was I have never seen both the doing and the critiquing done so like harmoniously, right? So like the way you do it, the way they critique you, even when you are giving an evaluation, it's communication.
Correct.
And I was like, oh, this whole thing, I was like, you're participating in every single piece of this. I was like,
yes,
this is freaking cool, bro. I was like, but it's the same thing as fitness, right? Like when you start to go deeper, every piece matters, right? And you start to pay attention. It doesn't mean that's complex, right? We talked about it when we were training chess the other day, bro. Like it's just simple stuff, right? Don't overcomplicate it. But there's the consistency and the intent. And so that's when I was like, oh, I'm a speaker. I am doing speaker things. I'm going to help other people.
Yes.
And that was the other, like activating by teaching. I was like, oh shoot. I was like, this is awesome, bro. So, but that was my realization when we met in Scottsdale was just as much as back in the day, I went through rehab the first time because of external circumstances. I was just learning how to do sobriety. Yeah. But when I chose to do it on my own, I was like, oh, I want to be sober. Right.
Yeah.
I want to live this life. I want a lifestyle change. I want to understand. And dude, you know, this is so funny. You know what the big hallmark lesson I teach people whenever like they ask me, what should I do to get sober? I'm like, okay, find a program that is like at least 15 hours drive away. Okay. It's in person and they require you to stay at least 6 months and they don't take insurance. So it's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to just be like everything's like all nice and, you know, bougie, right? There's a lot of places out there like that. And so I say, do that. And I said, your number one goal when you get there is you're just supposed to follow the schedule. So like when I went back to Teen Challenge, I literally was like, obviously I don't know how to live my life right now. So I'm going to submit to the process. And I was like, the most basic thing I could do was just follow the schedule. So I was just like 5 minutes early to everything. And people thought I was crazy. People in there would complain and all that. And I'm like, look, I'm just doing what like, I obviously need to change. And unless I just submit to the most basic stuff, none of this other stuff that I want to happen is ever going to happen. Right.
Right.
I was like, just follow the schedule. So it's like, just go to Toastmasters. Right. And so I'm going to join. Right.
Yeah.
But I know it sounds like we joke about it, but like in life, like these are the things that create big leaps in your personal development, is when you start to realize like, oh, you understand who you are, right? And you're like, oh, I want to be more of that.
Yeah.
80-20 rule, right? If you want to be the 20, you got to cut off the 80.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be more of that, you have to actually ask like, okay, if I want to be that, what is the person that really is that doing? And I was like, hey, I want to be a phenomenal communicator. And I was like, I'm not getting in the arena, bro. I'm getting on the field, but I can't go yard. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, man.
I'm getting these opportunities. I'm sitting here speaking with you, but I was like, I'm getting on the field, but I'm not going to batting practice, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and it sounds so rudimentary, but man, when you intertwine the belief with the thing, it just, I've seen it over and over again, man. People come to my gym, they would be like, man, I've tried like 7 gyms. Like I just might not be a gym person. And this person is like, they tried. They probably trusted people that didn't actually understand what they were doing. Right. They're tired. They got kids. They got work. Like they're not who they want to be in life. Right. Yeah. And when I sit there and say, all right, 3 days a week, I'll meet you for your first 3 classes. Right. I'm gonna come with you. And there's still people that still go to OYL this day that I did that with, right? Those were the hardest people to leave, bro. Whenever I said I was leaving, man, people cried. Like they came up to me, but it was the people that I walked through the trenches with, right? But they're different people now, man. Like they look at life differently. Like difficult is not difficult anymore, right? And so when we choose to like intertwine, like throw a little belief, but we start to do the thing that's in line with the person that we want to be. Yep. Bro, you can make jumps. You can. It's like jumping grades in school, dude. Like you can jump beyond that. So, but yeah, Toastmasters, bro. But I had no clue, dude. I walked in. They're like, hey, I was like, hey, I'm Jonathan. They're like, you ever been here before? I said, nope. And they were like, why are you here? I was like, well, my friend Michael in Phoenix told me to come. And I was like, straight up, I have no clue what we're about to do. They're like, you're okay. Would you be okay if we called you up for table talk? I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? And I didn't even know what it was. And so, but it was a good time, man. But that's awesome, dude. My life is hallmarked by stories like that. Like you can almost look at any big change between one of those moments where I was like, yeah, I just need to be this person. Dude. Yeah. And then
it's crazy, as we're sunsetting the gym, right? And I had an opportunity and I had to figure out some some make or break details on this thing. And I remember my highest and best use is in this leadership and character development capacity, right? It's where my genius is. It's where my flow is. It's my 20%, right? And at the same time, I'm in the best place I have ever been as a husband and a father, right? And when it came down to it, anything that compromises those two things, my ability to be a quality husband and father, and to operate in any capacity that isn't leadership and character development, I have to walk away. And it came down to, hey, dude, like we're going to do this. We're going to grow beyond where we're at, et cetera. But for the foreseeable future, you got to be here, not there, to make that happen. I was like, dude, that compromises both those things. I gotta go. I gotta walk away. Or better yet, and where we ended up leaving it, to be fair, is we got to find another way. So when you're ready to figure that out, I'm a phone call away. But dude, that's one of those things. It's like, who do you want to be? What are you? And I think this is, the push versus the pull, the belief over behavior thing. It's like, you're going to have to walk away from some things. You're gonna have to turn some shit down that at face value is like, you're an idiot, and I had to make those decisions independent of those it may directly affect. Because to your point about manipulation, what do I have to do to give everybody a soft landing, to make sure everybody's comfortable, etc., even if it's at my expense, the expense of my soul, the quote unquote selling out of it all. And at some point when you get tired of being where you are or tired of being who you are, the act of being the highest and best version of yourself is very counterintuitive, because you end up walking away from way more than what's presented to you.
Yeah, dude. Being who you really are, the cost of that is being greatly misunderstood and criticized, because often it will look from the outside like irresponsibility. That's
dude, that came from someplace deep, man. Elaborate, please.
So when I sold the gym, November of 2023, so we announced I told Mike in October of 2023. We announced it to our team in November. We told the gym in December. November, we had the month that was like 5x of when we started. The gym had never been easier. It was never making more money. I was never earning more money. I never had more of my base stuff taken care of, like my insurance and getting to buy stuff, all the great stuff, right? Never been in a better place. And that was when I chose to sell. And you know why? Because I told you this. We were at church that summer, and the lady that was preaching, she was talking about basically she was talking about the idea of like when you get called towards something, like there's a cost of desiring to go back. You don't have to just go back, but if you desire to go back, it'll cost you being present today, which is the power to move into the future, right? And she said, don't get caught looking back at a place that you were only meant to be passing through. And I was like, dude. And that was it when I was wrestling with this of like, because here's what most people are going to say, like, you got to be responsible. You got to make sure you have a plan. You got to make sure all these things, right? And every time in my life, you know what I've really noticed? Big changes, they are, what's included is a season of, how do I want to say this? So whenever you decide you want to make a change, it's not just walking into the new thing being everything it is. It's the cutting off of the 80%. So there's this gap of what feels unclear, right? You may have clarity in the long term, but that immediate time, it often feels pretty clumsy, right? And that's how I felt, right? When I sold the gym and I took this job full time and I moved back to North Carolina, because I just went through a bunch of changes, but I was like, I was trying to like pull the strings, trying to figure it out. And I was like, me and Will had this conversation, it just had been like a couple slow months and I've been moving and everything. And he was like, here's the thing, man. He's like, we had a couple slow months and I just had, it was a little off or whatever, from moving. He's like, here's the thing, man. He's like, you're cool. He's like, by the numbers, we're good. He said, but he's like, understand this. He's like, what you're experiencing is now the internal things that you're going to be experiencing in this new environment. He's like, if you don't learn that stuff and understand that, like it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to struggle with those. And I was like, dang, bro. I was like, new levels, bro. Like, it's like, we're going through the same thing, but it's that gap, right?
Right.
And so to a lot of people, that looks like irresponsibility. Oh, you sold the gym, like when it was doing the best and everything. And all that. And honestly, I undersold myself, because I even told myself, dude, straight up, I told myself, I was like, you know what, man, if it's the difference of like just being able to exit, like I'll give it away. I had made that decision inside so that I was able to totally exit. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that you got strings attached, you look it back. Right. But like, I told myself, I was like, nope. I was like, I'm going to do this in a way where like I can walk into what's next. Like I'm going to cut it off. Right. And so, but yeah, a lot of those things that look like to us, once you start to understand yourself and you see the vision of where you're going, test drive your dreams, bro. I've been thinking about that a lot. But like once you're clear, so this isn't just like coming up with dreams you have; it's the test driving. Like and whoever's listening, Coach Urs and I were talking about how he was like, "Yeah, well, you tell a story, bro."
A mentor of mine introduced me to the concept of taking life for a test drive. And making sure that your goals and aspirations you actually own them. They're not the shadows of somebody else's influence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's everything from the house you want to the car you drive to the nuclear family you want to create. There's a lot of different ways to take these things for a test drive by virtue of your own lived experience, right? So you might not have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. They'll still take your driver's license and allow you to test drive that BMW.
Mm-hmm.
You can go tour that new build 5,000 square foot home and just see what the energy's like in that place. Like, ooh, yeah, this is worth all the effort it would take to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, ooh, you Goldilocks and Three Bears this thing. Some things are too big, some things are too hot, some things are too small, too cold, but this one's just right.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, like on the car thing, I think that's relatable to everybody.
Yeah.
I sat in a McLaren this weekend. I don't fit in that shit. I don't want one. You know what I mean? But from the outside looking in, if you never drive it, dude, it looks like a sick car. It's
mm-hmm.
loud. It's sexy. It's fast. It's all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fit. You know what I mean? A $700,000 vehicle to get it custom for 6 foot 240. You know what I mean? Like a lot of mods would
have the wide seats, bro.
Yeah, a lot of mods would have to be made that turns into $1 million car. Do I want $1 million car? No.
Mm-hmm.
But I sat in it and I know.
Yes.
So nothing you could throw at me, aside from it being free and I could just resell it. Like aside from that, like it wouldn't be worth it to me. And I know that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That doesn't change how hard I work. That does, you know what I'm saying? But like my priorities lie in experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So how hard do I have to work? What systems what people do I need to put in place so that I can get myself to Antarctica next year? You know what I mean? Like that's where my value set really is.
Mm-hmm.
A bigger home is not something that is going to move me to move mountains.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But we all too often lead ourselves to believe that specifically the material is what moves us to action. But that's not a purpose-driven existence, right? Because all of this stuff can be replaced, and so that's taking life for a test drive. Very simply, making sure the things you want are the things that the royal you, your highest and best self, those are the things that you want.
The royal you. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. The reason we were talking about that was marketing knows human psychology. Right. So there's a lot of stuff out there that is in our faces and it is built with intent to understand our psychology. Right. And so to trigger certain things and, you see the Lambo pictures, the McLaren pictures, the people having success and all of this. And the problem lies when what you really want and what you believe you want, if they're incongruent, because they're two different things. You have to discover the really want stuff, but you can build a whole lot of false beliefs, but just by consuming stuff, right? And you think, oh, I want that. Again, what happens when you get there and you bought the car, but you never sat in it, right? And so a lot of people will go through their lives never doing that process, and it'll cost them peace. It'll cost them clarity. And the worst is it'll cost them time and relationships, because you can spend all that time driving towards $1 million car, but you leave your family in the back seat. Right. And it's like, so that sermon happened in June of 2023. Another thing happened. One time I came home and it was like 8:00 at night, and I walked in and my daughter, she's like, 2.5 at the time. She walks up, she's like, Dada, you're home. I hadn't seen her all day. 15 minutes later, I was rocking her to sleep. And then that night I said, this time next year, I will not be doing this. And it was a cascading series of events, but like that is a paradigm shift, and that's a different value set, right? My vision is that whatever I do, my family comes with me, right? That's clear. That's clarity, right? Like 100%. I've decided that's how that works. Does it mean they're going to be with me 24/7? No, it means I'm going to work, but like my work and what I do is not going to cost me my family.
Yeah.
I've drawn that line in the sand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know myself about like material things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm the same way. Like cars are cool, but I'm like, you know what? Like I've got other things I got to do, bro. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not the thing. That's not the mountain I want to climb,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And so, but that when you start to have clarity in who you are,
Mm-hmm.
you will start to move in directions and do things that people will, it's going to cost you being misunderstood. Like it's going to
I
cost
mean,
you that.
it's funny that it's so funny, man. Like the misunderstanding of the pursuit of your highest and best self.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in October, no, October. I told Nicole and I sat down. Things are good. We have time on our side, and I said, "Hey, I under these conditions, while the water is calm, I need you to hold me accountable to this commitment I'm about to make. When this lease is up, we will not be in this space." And she's like, "Are you like, that's it?" And I was like, "It does not matter what we have in place or don't have in place at the end of this lease. We're not staying. Like, hear me and understand me." She's like, "Okay." And to your point, man, it's walking in faith, right? Because you have to make that statement and you have to create that belief, that commitment, that agreement before the landscape of what's opportunity and what's distraction, the next easiest step beyond that decision, like all of that shit is different once
Mm-hmm.
that decision is made. But if it's a maybe, or we could thug it out month to month after this or whatever, like your decision matrix is night and day different
Mm-hmm.
under all of those scenarios. But once you draw that line in the sand, we ain't staying. Everything that you do looks way different and has a totally different weight to it. And I think people are the common practice is to hedge your bets. And well, if I came back from this trip and I had an offer to well, what if we stayed and we come in as partners? And I was like, I'm not staying. I'm not. So you can take the shit over. You can do whatever you want with the place, but I'm not staying.
Mm-hmm.
So if Michael's part of your equation, it's somewhere else. You know what I mean? And that you have to be that congruent with yourself if you want to create movement in others.
Yes.
And that's what I experience in you, bro. Is that congruency.
I would be lying if I told you every single day, all the time, I always felt that way.
Fuck no, you don't. No.
So let's be clear.
Yes.
My wife's least favorite question that I ask is like, what should I do with the rest of my life? I'm not allowed to ask her that, but not for real. Like it's almost a commitment. It's a commitment to, I actually think two ways on this now as I'm getting further along. I've done a lot of work like with therapy and, just personal development. I think you're making two commitments. I think you're making a commitment to your future self, but I actually think you are making a commitment to like the childhood you that was authentically you before nurture happened, whatever that looked like in your life. Like I look at myself, and my mom will tell me stories about when I was like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. And I see my kids, like my daughter, she's 4. I'm like, bro, like you're just like that. Like, dude, she loves dance. She loves to communicate. I'm like, bro, like it is in you. Right.
Yep.
But then the world happens or life happens and, we get nurtured in ways that kind of put masks on and we change. Right. But then there's also the future self, which is, hey, now that I know more about you, like me, present me, like I'm making a commitment to that person. Right. And that if you want to get to what is it like the studies say like the most common questions like when someone's like about to die, like they're like, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. I
Yep.
wish I would have spent more time with the people I loved. Those types of questions.
Yeah.
I don't think the worked hard is necessarily the right thing. I think they were thinking, hey, I'm just going to find a way to trade time for money. Right.
Yeah.
So me owning my gym continually as it grew, that would be working hard in their sense.
Right.
I think the real thing they're trying to say is like, I wish I would have made more decisions in line with who I wanted to be than what everybody else thought was right.
Yes. Yes. And what shows up for me right there is, I think that the truth of what they're saying is, I wish I had found another way that included me.
Yes. Oh, that's good, bro.
You know what I mean?
People live their life, but they're like kind of not even including themselves. They're including what everybody else thinks about what's right, what's proper, what's necessary.
I coach our leaders very specifically on this deal. Don't, as you're building your empire, don't leave yourself behind in the process. Like, where do you fit in your own schedule?
Bro.
Like that's a big deal that people don't stop and ask, because they've got so much momentum behind the building. They're like, whoa, time out. Like, because there is a way, you know what I'm saying? You can, what is it? What's the, Jack, conscious capitalism, the author, the old ex-CEO of Whole Foods. You can,
I forget his name, but yeah,
you can do good and do well. That's possible. But that's a different equation than just doing well or just doing good exclusively. Like, there are other components that take a little more and it doesn't necessarily have to be it doesn't have to slow things down. You just have to take some different pieces into consideration in the building part. You know what I mean? And so yeah, when people are on their deathbed, I think that's what they're really speaking to. I wish I had found another way. I wish I had done things a little bit differently, so I didn't get left behind, or the things that actually mattered to me weren't compromised in the process.
Man, that is so good. Clip that right there. I think it's funny. Like, for those who are listening, we went to this event in Scottsdale. It's for big old gyms. It's for gym owners, right? And, whenever we go there, I'm always like, even when I was going there and I still own my gym, like I learned early on, I was like, I already can probably figure out the tactical stuff. Maybe there's a few hacks, but I think the real goal of these events is to reinforce the person we're becoming, right? I think that's why, when you and I speak, we're heavily talking about that, because we know that if the person doesn't evolve, you can have all the tactics and strategies and frameworks, all that you want, but if you don't grow, you are the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the ceiling and I think also some people get it twisted when it's always about revenue or more profit, but like, yeah, you want the business to grow. But again, like, you don't want to leave you behind. I definitely know there were years where I did that. Like, I was like, I will do whatever it takes.
Guilty.
And I got somewhere, but it cost me myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I tell people repeatedly, man, there was a period where I was like, after it so fucking hard, I made myself sick. Literally, like, on the couch, not able to get up, sore, sweats, and none of it having anything to do with training. Just debilitatingly sick. And it's like, there's moments like that in the history where it's like, man, there's got to be another way.
Yeah.
Because this shit ain't it.
Yeah.
But people, dude, I think this is finish that thought, man.
I was saying, like, there's this guy, his name's Daniel G. He's like a sales trainer guy on Instagram. He's got millions of followers, right? He's got this phrase where it's like, buy the dream, sell the dream, live the dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And getting into sales, what I think is very interesting now is like, objectively speaking, like sales is a pretty positive thing, right? Because a lot of time, like back in the day, if you go way back, medieval times, bro, you had to go like chop your own wood down, build your own cabin. You had to do everything, right? But nowadays, like there's a place that sources materials, people that plan the house, people that build the house, people that inspect the house, people that paint it, all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like purchasing, selling is, I built this thing that is a composition of things and expertise that you don't have to engage in all that stuff, but I can help you with the way that gives you an outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is I think a lot of people have bought a dream, but they didn't realize that it's not the dream that's important. It's the person you are, right? Yeah. You can have all the dreams you want in the world, but like if you just chase dreams, it never takes into consideration like the human being that you are. Because like you can go figure out how to get to places, but if you don't step back and say like, if I know like, hey, I like being around people. If all I ever do is sit in an office all day and I try to act like I'm some sort of like hardcore entrepreneur that's just going to rise and grind, I'm going to burn myself to the ground. And there is strength in finally realizing like, oh, okay, I got dreams, but like, who am I? Right. And how do I take that person with me? A lot of people are chasing dreams that when they get there, they will be just as empty, if not more than they are right now.
Oh yeah.
So if we're getting close to the end, my encouragement to anybody is like, dude, understand yourself. Like, look at who you were when you were a little kid before someone made you feel a certain way that you weren't good enough, or you made you feel awkward for it, or whatever. There's stuff back there that's probably really lined up with who you are. And then the more you investigate that and you implement that stuff today, you start cutting out that stuff that's not a part of that. You might be pretty surprised with not just the results you get in your life, but man, I'm over indexed on peace nowadays. Like, do I have peace, bro? Like that's, so to answer your question earlier about how do I feel balanced? Like, I don't necessarily say I feel balanced. I would just say like, I prioritize for peace, and that is a big pursuit.
Dude, I love that. For everybody listening, man, where can we find you, support you, learn from you, watch you evolve as a speaker? Where do we find Jonathan DeFries?
Man, just follow me on the Instagram. I've decided that's the platform I'm probably going to use the most. So follow me on Instagram at Jonathan DeFries. You can find most things there. But going to start practicing my communicating, man. Going to start getting a little more serious about it. And so you can watch it there, but you can always DM me there as well. I am an open book, man. I'm always happy to have a conversation with someone. So if you just want to shoot me a message, maybe something stuck out to you, something clicked, I'd be happy to chat with you.
Love you, man. I really appreciate you. Thanks for honoring this podcast. And for everybody out there listening, if you're looking to become the fittest leader, go check out CoachDurs.com. Until next time, progress always.
Love it. See you.